Welcome, family, to our monthly virtual conference. I'm your host, Emmanuel Barbee. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube page. It's free. Help make this video podcast go viral by posting it on your Facebook page, your Instagram page, if you're on TikTok, LinkedIn, or X, formerly known as Twitter. This video podcast is available in three forms: audio, video, and as a written text in order for us to reach our audience. I encourage all of my listeners to please follow me on my Medium page so that you can have access to this transcript and all of my sources. To find my Medium page, just go to my YouTube page, and next to my photo on the right side, it says more links. Click on it and scroll down until you find my Medium page. Then click on it and look for the exact title of this presentation. Those of you who are serious about doing business with me, then please exchange emails with me. Send me your email to my Facebook inbox and I will email you everything that I do online. We host our virtual conference every last Saturday of the month until we are able to raise funds for our film project, quote, Hood Liberator, Made in Chicago, the war against Willie Lynch begins, unquote. This is a solution-based docudrama based on my experience growing up in the inner cities of Chicago and the purpose why I created the grassroots community activist movement. This is our Black Panther moment, except it's not owned by Disney, it's owned by GRCAM members. We have a lot of material to cover today. But before I go into my presentation, I would like to encourage everyone on my Facebook friends list, which is 1,908 people, and everyone in my social groups, please join the grassroots community activist movement. You don't have to live in the Black Ghettos to be a part of us. You don't have to live in the United States of America to be part of us. All I ask is that you purchase my revised book, quote, The Solution for Black America, Reclaiming, Rebuilding, and Restoring the Urban Ghettos in America, second edition, and read my story for yourself. If you agree with my vision and plan for Black America, then make arrangements with me to come on this platform so that we can talk about it and get others involved. My book is on my Amazon author page. It's available in two forms: the Kindle e-book for $9.99 and the paperback for $15 plus shipping and handling. I also have items on our virtual store to help us raise funds for our film project. We have renewed our GoFundMe page. It will be used as an indicator for our progress towards getting this film project fully funded and made. We're using crowdfunding so that everyone knows where exactly the funds will be used for. We're asking that you donate what you can. We want to raise $250,000 to start with. Our goal is to raise $500,000. If you are a U.S. citizen, then you can donate through our PayPal giving fund. You can use that as a tax write-off because this is a legitimate 501c3 nonprofit faith-based and community advocacy organization. You can find all of the links below this video podcast in the comment section. I have invested 32 years of my life trying to connect with other like-minded Black people and like-minded African people. I refuse to be ignored. My film project is my last attempt to try to do something positive for my racial group before I cut and run to Africa. Lord knows I would like to do more than just news and social commentaries. But without financial support from the Black grassroots and the global African family, then I am unable to do my God-given assignment, and that is to build the Grassroots Community Activists Institute of Chicago. This is a Nehemiah assignment. I encourage all of my international friends in my African group, GRCAM of Africa. Even if you are unable to participate in this event, please watch the replay of my video podcast. Leave a public comment about it on my YouTube page and share with all your friends on all social medias that you're on. This will help get the ball rolling. I encourage all of my Christian friends in my Christian group, Light of the World Inspirational Group, and Christian Spoken Word Network. Even if you are unable to participate in this event, please watch the replay of this video podcast. Leave a public comment about it on my YouTube page and share with all of your friends on all the social medias that you are on. This will help get the ball rolling. I encourage all of my supporters in my secular groups, GRCAM of Chicago and New Black Voices of Media, etc. Even if you are unable to participate in this event, please watch the replay of my video podcast, leave a public comment about it on my YouTube page, and share it with all of your friends on all social medias that you are on. This will help get the ball rolling. Instructions on how to participate on the show. First, watch this video podcast. This is called Side A. After I finish my presentation, then I will open up the phone lines through Facebook Live. This is called Side B. You can interact with me in real time by clicking on the link in the chat room. The title of this presentation, my mission to transform Black America and Africa, uniting like-minded Black Americans and like-minded African immigrants in America. Stagnation in Black America. I have many people in my family that are full of they love to complain about the white man, but when I ask them to read my story, then they make all kinds of excuses not to support me. And this is why I turned to the internet, and this is why I created my platform to reach like-minded Black people and like-minded African people. I don't want to be doing this another 32 years. You hear what I'm saying? We are going to separate ourselves from those who don't want to see us progress. I am determined to move forward in this journey. I feel the global Black awakening is in the air. The Bible says, those who are at the top shall be at the bottom. Those who are at the bottom shall be at the top. Matthew chapter 20, verse 16. In other words, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. There's a shift that's taking place, and it's inevitable. I am all over the internet. People are putting me on their platform so that I can spread my vision and plan about improving Black America as well as improving Africa. I've been discussing Black issues on Facebook now for 20 years, and the spirit of Pan-Africanism. As I mentioned many times before, the only issue I have with Pan-Africanism is that they left God out of the equation. Over here, we promote GRCAM, which stands for the Grassroots Community Activist Movement. Our goal is to connect with other like-minded Black people and like-minded African people. We welcome like-minded Afro-Brazilians, Afro-Latinos, and like-minded Afro-Caribbeans who identify themselves as Africans. I'm noticing the spirit of entrepreneurship among Black youth. It's not easy being a young person trying to make it in a world that is very expensive. As an upcoming entrepreneur, I can't help but feel very inspired to do my part in whatever way I can to support GRCAM Black youth through our soon-to-be Black empowerment films, not only in America, but in Africa, the Caribbean, and in Brazil. I admit I get very frustrated at the circumstances my people in America get themselves into. For example, 90% of Black Americans continue voting for the same political party, the Democrats, for the past 60 years without demanding tangibles for our vote. I am so glad to be in the information age, having access to all this technology. It gives me hope that I would live to see my vision come to pass in my lifetime. In GRCAM Chicago, we will work together locally, nationally, and internationally. But we have to believe in ourselves and in each other. That's why I am pushing hard for us to get this film project fully funded and made so that the proceeds from the film would allow us to build GRCAM Chicago in America first before we expand to Africa. Black people are becoming aware of all of the injustice that are happening among our people worldwide. For example, the George Floyd incident, which was live streamed in real time. Also, the colonization and exploitation that the French had in West Africa, specifically in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. For almost 50 years, those African nations finally were able to kick out France. I am so proud of them. That gives me a reason to want to relocate back to my ancestral homeland, Africa. Japanese Americans got their reparations, and Native Americans got their reparations too. This is our last fight in America. Lineage-based cash payment reparations for descendants of American slaves. I'm going to live this world having done my part in building GRCAM Chicago and GRCAM Africa, getting this film project fully funded and made. Black Americans and African immigrants are different because of our culture and the 400-year separation in time. But before we expand GRCAM Chicago to Africa, both Black Americans and African immigrants will play a vital part in building this Christian business for credibility. I want the whole Black world to know my story and what I have been going through for the past 32 years trying to get Black Americans to work with me. Based on what I went through, my business will be membership based. My African dream is African children around the globe and on the continent will unite and realize that while we may not like each other on an individual basis or because of us being from different tribes, there comes a point that we must come together and speak with one voice for the sheer survival of our racial group and for us to reclaim our Africa and reclaim our land, which rightfully belongs to us because it was given to us by God. If you have children, look at them and ask yourself, do you want to leave this world for them the way it is today? Why should your children have to grow up in a world that is disadvantaged to them, all because of this global system called white supremacy? We have to preach the gospel of truth with facts. We have to create our own system using an Afrocentric perspective. This is what my revised book is all about. In my revised book, I mentioned about the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885 meeting of major European powers, Belgium, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, and Spain negotiated and formalized claims to territory in Africa. That is the beginning of colonization imposed by the white supremacist financial elites. We have to continue talking about the injustices they create and demand reparations for enslavement and colonization. The Berlin Conference is still alive and well today because of its policies. The former colonizers created a policy to make sure that Africa and her children will remain defeated and dominated forever. The devil is a lie. Africa needs to say Africa for Africans. No passport needed. That simple. On our end, the Willie Lynch letters on how to make a slave explain how social engineering Black Americans and make sure that they're forever substitute to the white man. 400 years later, we're still suffering from the legacy of enslavement. This is why Black America and Africa is not moving forward, because the white supremacist financial elites place Black people who are in their pockets to be our so-called leaders or representatives. So how do we expect them to defend us or be our voice? We're still using old colonial textbooks that's intentional to make us think that Europe culture is better and everything Africa is inferior. Africa needs to change their educational curriculum and stop using the old colonial textbooks and use books such as mine and others from the diaspora. Africa needs to challenge the World Bank and tell them with one voice that we're no longer going to pay for these loans. They have been paid for already. Greece defaulted on their loans, yet look at how much Greece interest rates is. Many African countries have never defaulted on their loans, and yet the rating agencies give them poor ratings so they can justify charging them high interest rates. They created a system in place to steal and rob developing nations, and a majority are in Africa. The MIL survives because of the failures of developing nations. They will never put in place a policy to benefit African nations. They sell bad policies to African nations. They're training our youth to push these bad policies to the development of Africa nations. They're the ones being used as tools for our own self-destruction. We have to understand that we are part of someone else's experiment and has won over. We're slowly waking up. This is what I have been preaching about for the past 32 years. Now my listeners are starting to listen more closely. When we as Africans going to say enough is enough. For example, Switzerland does not have a single acre of cocoa, but it's the largest producer of cocoa products. Swiss coffee. It's our chocolate from Ghana. The teas and coffees come out of East Africa and go directly to Europe. Once we expand to Africa, GRCAM Africa, we will tell Western nations, if you don't like how we do things in Africa, then don't come here. Africa belongs to melanated people. When we stand up and tell the former colonizers with one voice, either do business our way or keep it moving. I don't think any African nation should attend the UN General Assembly. We don't have a seat at the table. African nations just go there to vote on other people's issues. The biggest abusers of human rights are Britain, France, and the United States of America and China. Yet they are supposed to be the watchdog for human rights violations. GRCAM of Africa will point out all of these foreign military bases across Africa and encourage African people to take a stand against this. If we can just connect with other like-minded Black Americans and like-minded Africans and come together, pool our funds together, we will be able to raise funds and use our own natural resources to help improve the African economy and each African nation that we have chapters in. GRCAM of Africa will teach the world to treat Africa fairly. If you want to do business with us, we have to provide our African youth quality education that will teach them the truth, and that's what's missing from our textbooks. GRCAM of Chicago's role in assisting the African diaspora's return. The vision behind GRCAM of Africa is for us to make an impact in Africa for African people. You can't expect the former colonizers who put us in these conditions in the first place to all of a sudden pull us out of them. We have to build our own system that will work for Africans. Our inheritance is Africa, given to us by God. For centuries, Europeans have imposed themselves on our continent. GRCAM of Africa's mission is to tell the truth about our beloved continent, the exploitation that has been taking place, preaching the gospel of truth with the facts. That is what my book is all about. With knowledge and God's help, we can fight this war and we will win. How do Black people join GRCAM? By purchasing my revised book and reading my story. I am trying to mobilize GRCAM members across the United States of America, GRCAM members in Africa, GRCAM members in Europe, GRCAM members in the Caribbean, and GRCAM members in South America. I noticed a downward spiral of the African American community in the early 2000s. The Black community lost that it takes a village mindset. The main reason why I wrote my revised book was to connect with other like-minded Black Americans and like-minded African immigrants to join GRCAM. And through this business, raise the bar in Black America. Today, our children are wilding out or acting a fool in public. And if somebody says something to them, like a teacher or someone with authority, then all of a sudden someone is ready to jump on them. That's not cool. I discussed this on my previous podcast a few weeks ago. I watched a video on African Diaspora News Channel about a fifth grade teacher who was crying that her female students wanted to listen to Sexy Red songs instead of learning about ballet. After the civil rights era, Black America has become Americanized and is showing narcissist behavior, combined with this Willie Lynch mentality and the rise of single-parent homes. The white supremacist financial elites are promoting all of this degeneracy and calling that Black culture. They are putting this image before the world. This is why I am here online to mobilize GRCAM members from my social groups and to encourage people on my Facebook friends list to join us. First, by purchasing my revised book and reading my story for yourself. All of the principles in my revised book is the code that GRCAM members will follow. I am only responsible for GRCAM members Those who are not part of us, we will pray for them, show them tough love, and keep it moving. I need African immigrants within the United States of America to help me get my revised book on the bestsellers list so that I'm able to do my job, and also for the black world to take us serious. We have to get our story on the big screen so that black youth and African youth will know what we're trying to do for our people. We will build GRCAM Chicago for both black Americans and the African immigrant community. We will vet everyone who walks through our doors and weed out con artists, degenerates, hardened criminals, off-code Negroes, pedophiles, and urban terrorists. There will be no corruption under my watch, and we will have protocol in place in case con artists slip through the cracks. In other words, to become an official GRCAM member, local residents must attend our mandatory orientation, sign our community pledge, pass out criminal background checks, and submit their thumbprint to be placed in our database. Anyone who tries to change our focus will get 2 warnings. The third time, that person or persons will have their name, photo ID, and address printed on our Judas list, and they will be barred for life. This is how I get down, because I'm not on here playing games. And so, yeah, I know it's a lot of black Americans, they take me for joke, but 32 years, I stand my ground, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing changed. My message still is consistent. And those that rejected me for the past 32 years will not be part of my business because it's going to be membership based. If they steal money from us, we will take them to federal court and sue the pants off of them. So, we're ready for those con artists that's going to try to undermine us or try to infiltrate us, because that's not happening. We want to get GRCAM Chicago established in America first for credibility before we expand to Africa, the Caribbean, and Brazil. Mainstream media is raging a propaganda war against black America. Notice every time black people are trying to do something positive, you always see some black person trying to undermine it. Reparation will benefit black people as a collective. When we get our reparations in America, then Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Latinos, and Native Africans will also get their reparations. It will be a domino effect. Black people in America have a special position politically when it comes to voting. There's 47 million black people in America, and about 34 million are registered voters. It's been proven black Americans vote en masse for one political party. 90% vote for Democrats. No other group vote like that, which makes black Americans the swing vote determining elections. We're watching the Democrats give millions of dollars to all of these other groups, even non-citizens like the migrants, who are getting free resources. No other group in America had the equivalent of a George Floyd experience. Not a one. Notice our so-called Democratic friends don't stop urban gentrification in our neighborhoods. They don't stop mass incarceration. The Congressional Black Caucus co-signed the 94 crime bill, and they approved the Asian hate crime bill. According to the FBI data, black Americans are the number one victims of hate crime in America. When it comes to these other groups, it's just for their group. But with black Americans, it includes people of color, minorities. We want tangible, specifically for black Americans, like lineage-based cash payment reparations for descendants of American slaves. We're being sabotaged by black politicians who are in the pockets of the white supremacist financial elites. It seems like black people on a global scale have not learned anything from slavery and colonization. We're still doing the exact same thing. We're still not on code as a collective. Notice none of our so-called black leaders are talking about ending slavery in America. As I mentioned in my revised book, the 13th Amendment is the only amendment that has an exception clause. Do the research. I don't hear any of our black leaders talking about this. There's no black movement to have that clause removed from the 13th Amendment. The Chi of Chicago would take the lead to do that. But as I mentioned many times in my video podcast, I have little to no support. Lord have mercy on my racial group. That is why I'm reaching out to African immigrants. The reason why we have mass incarceration in America, it says slavery is abolished except when you are convicted and the punishment of a crime. In this country has never ended slavery. If you think about it, which group of people is targeted for slavery in America? Failure leadership in Black America. I found an article from the New York Times entitled, quote, Black churches in Georgia unite to mobilize voters in a key battle ground, unquote. To read the full article, just go to my Medium page and look for the exact title of this presentation, then click on it and scroll down to show and prove. What I learned from this article is that black preachers in Atlanta united at the state capitol to get the black community to register to vote and help keep the Democrats in office. They're not uniting to help the black homeless population in Atlanta get off the streets. They're not uniting to help black Americans with job training. They're not uniting to help the sick and shut in. No, these pastors are uniting to make sure black people are registered to vote and for them to vote Democrat. I will play a short video clip. Fair Use 1180 Live.
Tonight, the heads of two historically black church denominations in Georgia, they are coming together to increase voter engagement in this year's presidential election. They say they are particularly concerned with making sure they are able to reach young voters, something they've struggled with over the past few years. That's right. So 11 Live's Paris Belger spoke with these faith leaders about their plans and why they say this election is so important.
A few weeks before Georgia's March primary, pastors and bishops from the AME and CME churches announced a push for political engagement.
This partnership is going to be not only about registering voters, but it's going to be about educating, mobilizing, and organizing.
Bishop Reginald Jackson, along with Bishop Thomas Brown of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, announced an effort to combine resources to train pastors and create voting plans for members and increase engagement from people like voter Shanita Benz.
You see, they make promises, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then when they're in office, they drop the ball. A lot of people think that my vote don't matter.
Bishop Thomas Brown, like Bishop Jackson, believes God and government are not mutually exclusive, especially when engaging with younger voters on the issues.
Too often, we who are seniors feel like we get on out there on the knowledge and the expertise. We do not any longer. They say promises made are not promises kept. They ask, what happened to police reform?
With their eyes on Election Day in November, they say now is the time to switch tactics and ensure every voter in their community makes their opinion known. Karis Belger, 11 Alive News.
The black church today has failed the black community. The African Methodist Episcopal Church and Christian Methodist Episcopal Church went to the Georgia state capitol to announce a historical partnership combining their resources across the state of Georgia to increase engagement among black voters. Their current plans include training pastors at their various churches and hosting voter registration workshops for church members. Bishop Thomas L. Brown, who leads the 6th CME Church District in Georgia, says, quote, "It's even more important this year that faith leaders listen to younger voters who make up a significantly large part of the voting population during this election. The challenge I think we deal with is we don't listen to young people. We want to tell young people what to do, and the time has come we need to listen. You can teach us some things, help us do a better job at what we're doing," unquote. Say, Bishop, let me say something. If you want to sit down and talk with me, then come on this podcast. I'm glad you at least acknowledge that you're trying to listen to the black voices. The issue is you guys are only uniting to get black people to help put Biden back in office. The Bible says, "Be in the world, but not of the world." John chapter 15, verse 19. It seems like you all are servants of the Democrat Party, and you want to get our people to vote them back in office. We have not gotten nothing from the Democrat Party. The average black family in Atlanta is struggling. 20% of black people said that they want to vote for Trump. 10% said they wanted the couch. These mega black churches are the biggest cheerleaders for the Democrat Party. You all do not unite to do anything except to serve up the black community to the Democrat Party. The migrants are coming across the borders every day and getting rewarded for breaking the federal law. You're not at the state capitol fighting against urban gentrification. You're not at the state capitol talking about funding to fix our neighborhoods. You're not fighting for anything like that. You're promoting voter registration to encourage black people to vote Democrat. You're not talking about reparations for descendants of American slaves. You're not talking about the migrant crisis. The main problem in black America are black politicians, Democratic shills, and a few bad black preachers who are undermining our progress. They have no problem selling us out. I remember as a child, Democrat politicians would come to our church and talk to us, and after they win the election, they disappear until it's time for them to campaign again for office. Black churches in the inner cities where I'm from have not built any institutions for the black community. This is why the young generation is not attending their churches. Once we get our film project fully funded and made, and the proceeds from the film starts pouring in, then I will be in a better position financially to purchase property in Chicago through GRCAM of Chicago and offer quality and affordable child care services for our members and students. Also, through our for-profit sector of the business, open up community grocery stores, community healthcare clinics, and community housing. Global African family, what are you waiting for? Don't be like black Americans sitting up here and taking me for joke. I am documenting what I'm trying to do through this video podcast. The sooner we get this popping in America, the sooner I can turn this business over to qualified black middle class professionals and African immigrants, and then expand this business to the African continent. This is what I want to be remembered for. Trying to do something positive before I cut and run to Africa. We see these preachers living their best lives. Some are millionaires while the congregation is suffering. No one under my leadership will have to suffer because GRCAM of Chicago will look out for our own first, and that's real. My message is not for all black people or all African people. My message is only for like-minded black Americans and like-minded Africans that want more out of life. GRCAM of Chicago is my gift to black millennials and Generation Z. These Democrats do not deserve the black vote at all. What has Raphael Warnock done in Atlanta? Preachers are supposed to stay out of politics. They should be talking about God's word. They should be calling out the filth in American society. More people will support you if you call out sin and unrighteousness than go along with it to collect a check. We got to just hold the line. Brothers and sisters, hold the line. These Democrats don't deserve your vote at all. These Democrats haven't done anything for us, so why in the world would you reward them another 4 years? I believe that black Americans as a collective are afraid to travel to Africa. We blame the white man for everything. We live in the information age. We have access to the internet. All you need to do is research what you want to know about Africa and the country you want to visit. Also, you could chat with Native Africans in real time in my African group, GRCAM of Africa, and connect with Africans who live on the continent. I'm tired of the term program. It just means you can't think for yourself, and it's the white man's fault for everything, which is a weak excuse in 2024. Black Americans have no problem traveling to Mexico with all the drug cartels down there. There was a violent kidnapping in Mexico that left 2 black Americans dead. I'm not going to play that video, but I do have it on my Medium page, so you can watch that video if you like. Black Americans are traveling to Europe, Canada, and Asia, yet they complain about experiencing racism in those countries instead of traveling to an African nation or Caribbean nation. We talk about how we're not going to circulate our money with racist people here in America, but then black Americans travel to Europe, Canada, and Asia and complain about racism. It doesn't make sense, y'all. My critics say black Americans don't want to travel to Africa because they feel betrayed, but don't feel betrayed by Europeans. That doesn't make any sense to me neither. Once we get GRCAM of Chicago up and running in America, we will promote African tourism in each African nation. We will set up local chapters. I know that in Ghana and South Africa, you don't need a visa. Many black Americans don't want to go to a predominantly black population. Through the business, I want to bring like-minded black Americans who don't think this way. I want to bring people to come with us and say, how can I make myself useful? The African American community took credit for saving democracy and putting Joe Biden in office. The African American community demanded that the Biden administration put a black woman in his cabinet because black Americans saved Joe Biden's political campaign. Biden said his top priorities were immigration and LGBT rights. On the other hand, President Donald Trump talked about how to grow the African American middle class and offer, quote, New Deal for Black America, unquote. I will play a video clip of this fair use Bloomberg TV.
I want to talk about how to grow the African American middle class and to provide a new deal for Black America. That deal is grounded in 3 promises: safe communities, great education, and high-paying jobs. My vision rests on a principle that has defined this campaign right from the beginning, and you've seen where we've come from and where we are right now. It's called America First. Every African American citizen of this country is entitled to a government that puts their jobs, wages, and security first. One of the greatest betrayals has been the issue of immigration. Illegal immigration violates the civil rights of African Americans. That's what's been happening. No group has been more economically harmed by decades of illegal immigration than low-income African American workers. I will also propose tax holidays for inner-city investment, a new tax incentive to get foreign companies to relocate in blighted American neighborhoods, and they will do that. It will be worthwhile. It's called incentive. They will do it. I am very humbled beyond words to be the nominee of the party of Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people don't know that. It's the party of Abraham Lincoln. And it is my highest and greatest hope that the Republican Party can be the home in the future and forevermore for African Americans and the African American vote, because I will produce and I will get others to produce, and we know for a fact it doesn't work with the Democrats, and it certainly isn't going to work with Hillary.
As you heard, that deal was grounded in 3 promises: safer communities, greater education, and higher paying jobs. This is what Black Americans voted against. Now Black Americans are being replaced by migrants. And this is what the 90% of Black Americans voted for in 2020. I began warning Black Chicagoans, Black Americans, for 20 plus years online and in real life about dealing with this Willie Lynch mentality within Black society head on, because all these other groups are on code against us. Back in 2020, I encourage all of my listeners within the United States of America to demand tangibles from these politicians and look at what policies will benefit the African American community. But just like they did when I used to do street ministries, Black Chicagoans paid me no mind. Now we're moved from the era of warnings to the era of consequences. I found a video clip by O'Shea Jackson entitled, quote, Black women are regretting that they made this guy mayor of Chicago.
Chicago is a beautiful place, and it's the 3rd largest economy in the nation, and it has so much potential in that city. Some of our best educational institutions come from the city of Chicago. The University of Chicago is one of them, but we all know that Chicago is also home to African American gospel music and home to so many people, such as the Chicago chapter of the Black Panthers. Fred Hampton, the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, and many others that shall remain nameless at this particular time. But one may ask, with all of Chicago's black talent, will that stop Chicago from reaching its potential? And then we can always point back to black leadership. Because Chicago, although a liberal and democratic city, has been typically one of the most segregated cities in America. Blacks on one side in poverty, whites on the other side that's flourishing.
As if the youngsters growing up in the older and poorer parts of America's cities didn't have enough problems. Many of them have to grow up scared. They are in fear for their lives, literally, because of gang violence. Bill Scheckner, who reports on the young for the NBC News program Main Street, has a report tonight from the urban battleground.
Chicago's West Town area. Tough, poor, dominated by gangs, and dangerous, especially for the innocent. Rafael Maldonado, who's been shot at and beaten.
You don't even know when they're going to attack you until it happens. You don't know what's going to happen. So you got to be on your guard all the time.
LaShawn Smith, who's seen a 6-year-old child die.
I sent a little friend of mine that was visiting with her relatives around to the corner store. I gave her some money, sent her around to the corner store. While she was around the corner, the gangbangers started shooting back and forth across the street. She got caught in the middle and was killed.
It is the kind of thing that happens here, where gangs stake out turf, make clothing and colors into a uniform. Non-members have to abide by the rules, live like civilians in a war zone, even though it is the neighborhood of their birth.
But that was supposed to change when Chicago started getting its influx of African-American mayors. In 1983, we saw our boy Harold Washington become the first black mayor in the city of Chicago. Then after that, Eugene Sawyer. But the city got real excited when we saw Lori Lightfoot. And Lori Lightfoot was a lady that was supposed to change things. She was the first open lesbian black woman to serve a mayor of any major city. She comes with a lot of credentials. University of Michigan, University of Chicago, and a huge career as a U.S. attorney and also in private practice. But Lori Lightfoot did a terrible job as the mayor of Chicago. Crime got worse. Safety and public issues got worse. Fiscal issues got worse. Coronavirus was handled terribly. But also, silly controversies happened. Like in May 19, 2021, Lori Lightfoot said she would only deal with reporters of color for interviews on the occasion of her 2-year anniversary. Issue is, her wife, Amy Hesselman, is white. Like, get real. So Lori Lightfoot was terrible, and so she had to go. Introducing somebody who was supposed to be changed was this guy, Brandon Johnson, a teacher, a progressive, somebody who was supposed to get Chicago back on track. And man, he's everything that folks wanted to see. A married black man to a black woman with 3 kids, upstanding in the community. He's what Chicago wanted to see. But stop the show. Looks like Brandon Johnson had other ideas. Although African Americans worked hard to put him as the 57th mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson had other ideas. His ideas were to increase immigrants into Chicago. And he did it at God's speed, frustrating people who voted him in as a black mayor. And this is where this passionate speech came from this particular sister in Chicago.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I would like to say good afternoon to the City Council members, the media over there, and to my brother, Mayor Brandon Johnson, who we fought on some fronts together. And all those fronts we fought on together when I was with SCIU or anything else out there in the street, Brother Brandon, you have always been on the right side of history. That's why I campaigned for you, and that's why I voted for you. That's why I encouraged others to vote for you. because I knew and I felt in my heart you would be on the right side of history. And that meant including your people, descendants of enslaved Africans. Brother, you got to stop the buses from coming in. You just got to stop the buses coming in because it's hurting your people. I'm talking about descendants of enslaved Africans. We're hurting the things that our people been on the waiting list for. The immigrants are coming in, getting everything, and I don't have time to go into all of it because I have another concern. When I used to come down here under Harold Washington and we were fighting Ed Byrd, Bedolia, and the rest of the haters of black people that sat in these seats down here, we had 2 Latino aldermen. We had Louis Gutierrez and Jesus Garcia. They never pushed the black woman around. They never voted against black people's issues. They never held meetings behind Mayor Washington's back to form committees. They never tried to take black wards and black precincts. I thought we were on our way to a black and brown coalition. But you know what? I thought I'd see it under you. But you know what? Carlos Ramirez, he spoiled all of that. And it was disrespectful to every black man down there on that floor, including you, that he's comfortable enough to put his body in front of a black woman, you understand, and tell her what she can do, because she know ain't no strong black men down there that's going to confront him. You know, his people got his back. I wish it had been me he pushed. But I'll just go on to say this. Something has got to be done, because all black women ain't satisfied with Emma Mitt's apology and forgive. We ain't for it. But back to the buses, my brother, please, coming from your elder. We've been talking, the elder's been talking. We're looking for you to help us on this issue. Stop the buses. Please stop those buses from coming in here. Please. Thank you. Please.
But again, he sat there and took it on the chin like a sucker. And 6 months in, he's concerned about doing this with immigrants.
Mayor Brandon Johnson is speaking out about the ongoing migrant crisis. During a news conference, Johnson said he's been in touch with the White House and state officials for nearly 20 weeks, asking for aid and help with coordination. The mayor's doubling down on the importance of helping the asylum seekers.
You know, this is a global crisis. The policies that are impacting population shifts around the globe is affecting us all. These are asylum seekers. These are not illegal people. The moment they step ground on American soil, they are now officially protected by international law.
Terra is the IT painkiller. Remote monitoring and management.
Because it is important for local and federal governments to coordinate and streamline their efforts, including with leaders from Texas.
That's right. Brandon Johnson, just like Lori Lightfoot, is continuing to ruin the great city of Chicago. Well, my question is this. What did you think was going to happen? I mean, let's just look at the city of Chicago in the last, 50 years. Now, true, there were white Democratic mayors. But ever since we got to Harold Washington on board, it's been a Democratic city. And you've had whites and blacks both ruining the city, making it worse and worse and worse, and making African Americans the mayor of Chicago. People thought that, hey, these are our people, then they will look out for us. But black people have forgotten that African Americans who are Democrats are not African Americans. They are Democrats first, okay? So they are not aligned with you by race or identity. They are aligned by a political party. I thought you would have knew that from Barack Obama, who so many African Americans thought that you were going to get changed by hiring Barack Obama. But Barack Obama is loyal to the Democratic Party. He's not loyal to African Americans per se. And that's exactly what you thought when you were getting Brandon Johnson. You were not going to get somebody loyal to the African American community. He may have said that. He's loyal
to Democrats. And I think that's possibly fair because not everybody in Chicago is black. Here's what needs to happen. Black people need to be loyal to each other outside of politics. We need to think about what's going to happen as far as the private sector and for those things that we want from any mayor. Doesn't matter if that mayor is white or black or whatever the case is, we need to besiege that particular mayor with our agenda. When you're intellectually apathetic towards city politics or local government politics, which tends to be the case in our community, you're looking for a handout when you just elect somebody, but you're not doing the work. And Brandon Johnson don't care about what happens to the black community there. He cares about his tenure as a mayor. Brandon Johnson didn't want to get hired to serve black Chicago. He wanted to get hired to serve his own political issues and his own political career. He's a politician, just like Lori Lightfoot, just like Richard M. Daley. These are all Democrats. These are all mayors. But that's what you get when you think like that. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Central Jackson.
This was not happening under the Trump administration. Joe Biden was very clear about his two top priorities, immigration and LGBT rights. This is what Black Americans voted for. Black Chicago is done if they re-elect Biden, and Chicago would end up looking like California, which makes up only 6% of the black population, which means the black vote is neutralized. In other words, the black vote is worthless. I discussed this issue in my revised book. I said in so many words that our urban cities will be sabotaged by the white supremacist financial elites because of all this off-code behavior among black people. I explained that illegal immigrants, their people will fight for them to become legal citizens, and they will compete against our children and for resources. In my revised book has been on Amazon for 12 years and still barely selling, and the same for items on my virtual store. Without support from the black grassroots and the global African family, I am unable to do my job. Before I can come to Africa, I have to complete my God-given assignment, and that is to build GRCAM Chicago, which will help the African American community and the African immigrant community. Not too many people want to listen to me. Now, what I have to say is starting to come to pass. This is going to get worse for black people in America, especially those who are off code. Black America has two choices, either embrace annihilation or embrace survival. I only want to work with those who want to survive and are GRCAM members and students. The migrants are getting free food, free medical care, and free shelter, while thousands of black Chicagoans are struggling to make ends meet. These politicians are using our tax dollars to finance non-citizens who have anti-black sentiment towards us. Notice the white supremacist financial elites are dumping these migrants in major black neighborhoods to pin us against each other. With so much resources being given to the migrants, the question is, what about the citizens of Chicago? People are starting to complain about budget cuts. If we don't have respect for ourselves, then who will respect us? For Democrats, getting immigrants into the country is the number one concern because Democrats need new voters who will be loyal to them and help them with these mega corporations gaining a cheap labor force. This is the time that black Americans should embrace my vision and plan and join the grassroots community activist movement now. Our goal is to get our story on the big screen and then make our presence known in the African American community starting in Chicago. GRCAM Chicago will teach our members and students how to build black businesses and educate our members about pushing a black agenda. There's no better time than now, and this is the time that we need to learn how to respect each other, how to do business with each other here in America before we expand to Africa, the Caribbean, and in Brazil. I will put the link in the chat room if you want to call in and add to the conversation. GRCAM is an experience, but I want to meet all of my active group members in person so that we can turn my ideas in my book into a reality. Do you feel me? We are witnessing what's happening in the African American community. The plan is to push out black people from major urban cities and replace us with migrant families. We're going to be wiped out, and we'll be wiped out the way just like Native Americans were. The Democrats want to replace us with migrants. Unfortunately, black Americans is gonna suffer. I'm gonna suffer because I have little to no support. But we still have a chance to get things right in November. Democrats in Chicago plan to spend $250 million on migrants while refusing to pay reparations to descendants of American slaves. The question remains, will black Americans come out in mass to re-elect Biden and the Democrats in November 2024? The white supremacist financial elites want to see us or see a mass exodus of black Chicagoans fleeing to other urban cities because they want to use the migrants as a buffer class to take over our neighborhoods, thanks in part to this Willie Lynch mentality within black society. We have been in Chicago for hundreds of years. As a matter of fact, it was a black man by the name of DuSable who discovered Chicago. I found a Fox News video talking about how the state plans to spend $138 million for the migrants, but nothing for reparations. Fair use Fox News.
Democrats can come into this country and get a stipend, link, a free room and board, free child care, and some of them are getting Social Security. They shouldn't even be allowed in our neighborhood.
Anyway, people in Chicago, as the migrant crisis is draining city resources, and moderate Democrats there are blaming progressives. They say Americans in need are the ones bearing the cost. Zerlina Smith members is a victim services activist in Chicago. She's also running for the Cook County Board of Commissioners, so she's willing to step up to try to do something. Let me just show you here that the migrant shipped from Texas via bus or airplane to Chicago in the past year and a half, 35,393, so almost 36,000 people. And you have seen firsthand how it's having an effect?
Of course, they're in my community. I'm an Austin resident. They had them housed at our police station. When they decided to relocate them from our police station, which was 15th District, they decided to start giving out more free housing expenses by bamboozling homeowners or commercial owners to let them move into their properties for a stipend. And once that stipend ran out, they're stuck with illegal immigrants running through our community that are living free, or we have a mass housing issue when it comes to Chicago.
The other thing I read that you said is that you don't blame Governor Abbott.
Why? No, I don't. I don't blame him because he didn't ask for this problem. I commend him for what he's doing. He's dealt with it for long enough, and I do believe that if sanctuary cities want to be welcoming, they should have a plan in place. The city of Chicago nor New York had a real plan, and they got what they had been asking for years.
And I recall there was a city council meeting where there was a proposal to withdraw and end the sanctuary city designation. That failed. Do you think that it could possibly come up again?
I doubt it because you don't have the mayor of the city of Chicago running the fifth floor. You have CTU, our Chicago Teachers Union, and their progressive elected individuals sitting in our city council who are really not even from here or live in these communities that these migrants are being housed or shipped to.
You also said that the immigration crisis is going to flip the state of Illinois purple. Do you think there are enough people that you're talking to and in your community that are willing to not vote for Democrats this time around?
Of course, in my community, most of our people didn't even vote to elect this current mayor. And the sad part about it is I'm running for his last seat that he held before becoming mayor, which is the first district county commissioner seat. And those people didn't even vote for him. The rhetoric is that they want to tell us as Chicagoans that we are being taken care of. One, and to 4 children, the Crane magazine just posted that Black children and brown children who are born in the city of Chicago are going to bed hungry. But yet and still they find money to feed illegals. They want to make it seem as though they're, just undocumented. These people are fleeing their country and coming to our country and taking the resources. If my 14-year-old knows that this is a problem and she wants to move to Texas because they don't want them, then it's a real problem when the children are noticing that the Democrats have failed them and my 14-year-old wants to move to a Republican-led state.
Wow. Governor Abbott will probably welcome you with open arms. I just want to show you this. Call for 2 here is $638 million. That's the amount of money that the Illinois state has committed to taking care of migrants, and $138 million has been spent since October of 2022. My last question for you is, do you believe that there is any help coming from the Biden administration to help Chicago in this situation?
Well, if our mayor and CTU continue to jingle around national issues instead of city issues or state issues, I believe that there's no help coming. But because the DNC is coming here, we're going to make sure that we protest and shut it down. So any more money spent is a true problem with not just the Black community, but the brown. And we are asking to defund the migrants that are coming to the city and the state of Illinois. We want to defund them. So whatever they do, that's their problem, but we don't want it anymore.
Zerlina Smith members, stay in touch. Love to have you again. Thank you.
These politicians did not need a study or a commission. The migrants get free health care, free housing, and free food while American citizens are begging for free health care. It's not just Chicago, it's also New York City and every Democrat stronghold because they are sanctuary cities. Black Chicagoans didn't learn anything from electing Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who tried to cover up a murder of Laquan McDonald during the middle of his re-election campaign. Black Chicagoans didn't learn anything from electing Lori Lightfoot. Now they're complaining about Mayor Brandon Johnson. Notice, what do all these mayors have in common? They're all Democrats. It's not a Brandon Johnson problem. It's not a Lori Lightfoot problem. It's a Democrat policy problem. In Boston, Mayor Michelle Wu is doing the same thing. As long as Black people continue to vote for them in office, we're going to continue to have the same issues. This is why I wrote my revised book, in order to connect with other like-minded Black people beyond the internet, but that is not working. My film project is my last attempt to try to reach like-minded Black people and like-minded African people in America. The migrants are going to keep taking our resources because a majority of Black people don't want to leave the Democratic plantation. They will complain about the circumstances, yet don't do anything to change the situation. This is what the white supremacist financial elites is beckoning on. Remember, they created this slave mentality. They know Black Americans will not do a mass exodus from the United States of America to relocate to Africa. All I'm trying to do is gather like-minded Black people and like-minded African people to work with me. First, by helping me get my revised book on that bestsellers list so that the Black world would take our cause serious. Secondly, I encourage everyone on my Facebook friends list, everyone that's on my LinkedIn friends list, my Instagram friends list, everyone that's on my TikTok friends list, etc., to donate what you can to our film project. Once the proceeds from the film starts pouring in, then I can hire qualified black middle class professionals and African immigrants in America to help me build this Christian business for credibility. Then we will expand it to the African continent, starting in South Africa. Black Americans can stay and continue fighting for the rest of their lives. More power to y'all. Life is too short to be going through unnecessary drama. As for me and my house, I will reclaim my ancestral homeland, which is Africa. Before I cut and run to Africa, I want to make sure that I'm able to establish GRCAM of Chicago, and I want to make sure that I will be able to sustain myself before I move abroad. I want to make sure that I can offer tangibles for my African group members of GRCAM of Africa and hire the locals. I also want to make sure that I lead by example by applying for dual citizenship and make our second film entitled African Liberator, Battle Against the Colonized Mindset. These white supremacist financial elites are taking our black tax dollars and giving it to Ukraine, Israel, and all these other groups and telling black Americans there's nothing for us. We've been hearing about all these millions of dollars thrown around in Illinois and other Democrat cities, but they don't have funding for homeless American citizens. White America, let me ask you a question. A lot of you say reparations are unfair. Why should you pay? You didn't own any slaves and all of that, but you're paying for migrants and the cost is unlimited. Why aren't you protesting and saying it's unfair for you to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to migrants who didn't pay into the tax system, who didn't fight any wars? You owe descendants of American slaves not only for the 246 years of free labor, but after American slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, convict leasing, institutionalized racism, and discrimination. Your people stole millions of acres of land from black Americans. The injustice that happened to my people in this country, we need our reparations. I'm noticing white American is not complaining about all their tax dollars going to the migrants. When black Americans say, well, we need our reparations in the form of cash payments, you say, why should you pay? Well, you're paying these immigrants. These career politicians don't care about homeless American citizens. They don't care about high inflation. They don't care about any of that. Their focus is on giving migrants $1,000 cards just to justify it by saying they're saving taxpayers money. But your pockets are being drained in New York City, in Chicago, and other Democrat cities and states. Look at what's happening in our cities. They will end up being bankrupt because all the city services that should be going to taxpayers will be going to migrants and their families. The only way you can show them, slow this mess down, is you have to vote Republican or sit it out. It has been estimated that 6 million people have crossed the border since Biden has been in office. I remember back in 2019, Ghana hosted the Year of Return. I had a few friends who traveled to Ghana. They wanted to have that connection to the continent. They told me that what they experienced over there, they had to pay the same amount of money as everyone else to visit the slave dungeons. They told me they felt like foreigners instead of displaced Africans. They didn't have the infrastructure in place for the diaspora. And they said they heard a lot about land scams. Black Americans aren't culturally Africans. but we're of African descent, and that's fine. In America, Pan-Africanism is not working. This is why I created the grassroots community activist movement in order to unite like-minded Black Americans and like-minded African immigrants for us to work together to build GRCAM Chicago. There are many Black grassroots organizations out here. One such group is known as FBA, Foundational Black Americans. They have created the delineation movement because of all of the disrespect that a few African immigrants and Afro-Caribbean people have been saying about Black American culture on social media. I found a video entitled, quote, Sister goes off on Nigerians for speaking on what they would do better in living in America, unquote. Fair Use African Diaspora News Channel.
The sister was responding to Nigerians who have commented on what they would do better had they been living in the United States, as well as what they say about Americans. Take a look.
Recently, I've been talking a lot about race relations on my channel, and some of the comments that I get are from Nigerians in Nigeria who talk about how if they were in America, all of the wonderful and amazing things that they would be able to do if they were in America. If I were in America, I would be rich, I would be famous, I would be this, I would be that, because you Black Americans are lazy, you Black Americans are this, you're that, you love the culture. I'm constantly having to battle Caucasians on one hand, and then now I have to battle Africans on the other. And you all know, listen, I love my Nigerian people, I am genetically Nigerian and Ghanaian. The only reason why we're Black would be able to come over to America and be able to do anything is because of the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the fighting and the dedication of African Americans who on this soil changed this land. African Americans are the ones who got this country integrated. Let me explain something to you. White people in this country did not give us anything. We have had to take. We took in the 1960s what it is that we had. We took their lynching, their terrorizing, their burning down of our neighborhoods, and we continue to rebuild and rebuild and revisit and retwist and re-rise up what it is that we have done in this country. And the only reason why anybody can bring their Black over here from another mother effing country is because of what Black Americans have done on this land. And I'm saying this as a person who is bicultural, whose father is not American, on it. My father is an immigrant, and he was able to come over to this country and do something in this country because of the Black people who fought, who died, who bled, who were lynched on this land. So don't sit your Black closer than some other goddamn country talking about what you would do in America. The only reason why you're Black didn't even get the F over here is because of what we have done. Part of the reason that Nigeria looks the way that it is right now is because Europeans ran roughshod over Nigeria, took down your symbols and put up their own, implanted you with their religion, had you worshiping white skin. And then after they sucked and siphoned from the country enough, then they started implanting the leaders that they wanted, who would fulfill their white supremacist agenda. If you were born on this land entrenched in the funk and the foulness that exists on this land, you would be just as mentally enslaved, just as mentally entrained as the people who are here. So rather than going off and talking about all of the things that you would do in America, please do them in Nigeria.
Well, she's definitely not lying there in everything that she's saying. I just think that when it comes to just basic human thoughts and feelings, the ripe old term, the grass is greener on the other side, always comes into play. And a lot of people that are in other countries think that things are much better in North America, and they feel like they would do better if they had the opportunity to leave their country and come to America or Canada. I just think that that's tone deaf, because if you are to even just turn on the news every day, you get a sense of what's going on in America with our people and the lack of equality and the racial unrest, and what's happening to our people every single day in the workplace. There are many opportunities that are not afforded to us. So when you are in another country, it's probably best to really educate yourself and understand the country that you're talking about, that you would do better had you had the opportunity. Because if you're seeing history to present, what Black people are going through, what would make you, as a Nigerian, think that you can do better than what Americans are doing currently? Now, of course, there's good and bad. You know, you've got criminals, you've got law-abiding citizens that are trying to do the best for themselves and their families, and you've got reformed criminals that are out and trying to do the best for their families, and then you have the hardened criminals. So you get it all. However, when we're talking about just in general, the Black community trying to get ahead and what we go through, it is very insultive to hear somebody in another country say, well, we can do better, and the only reason that you are in the position you're in is because you're all thugs. So on top of that, you're painting the entire group of American people with a broad brush. So it's tone deaf, it lacks education. And this sister, as you can see, as she goes through, she's just going up and up and up. Her emotions, crescendoed, because it was very, triggering for her. And rightfully so. Listen, to Africans and people in other countries, just make sure that you educate yourself. And if you want to, obviously come to North America or any other country, just prepare yourself. And you can't really make these kinds of broad statements without really ever even being in that country to really understand. So do better. Let me know what you all think about this. What do you think about, how Nigerians are feeling about Americans? I know that there's a lot of talk about Africans not liking Americans and Africans not liking Jamaicans and vice versa. And as that old saying goes by Rodney King, can we all get along? We go through enough as it is from them folks. As a community, we need to learn to stop having this infighting that goes on between us. So let me know what you all think.
It's not just limited to them, but all these other groups such as Asians, Latinos, and whites. None of these other groups reciprocate when we stood up for them. Now Black Americans are starting to get on code. This is why I wrote my revised book. All of the principles in my revised book is the code for GRCAM members, because all of these other groups are on code to compete against us for resources. The main problem in Black America is this Willie Lynch mentality within Black society. We have to deal with that head on so that we can heal collectively. Otherwise, we will be done in America. Notice how Kyrie Irving was attacked for posting a documentary entitled Hebrews to Negroes, a Wake Up Black America, unquote. Notice how Nick Cannon was treated in the media. Notice white Americans is not complaining as much about all their tax dollars going towards illegal immigrants crossing the border, as opposed to black Americans demanding our reparations. Anything we say, we get attacked. So we're starting to mind our own black business, and that's a good thing. We should have been gatekeeping our culture and creations long time ago. A lot of these non-black groups are making big money off of such as Asians who sell black beauty products. I have a video about how they treat black people, their main customers. But I'm gonna leave that alone. You can watch it on my Medium page. Everybody wants to come in on hip hop. Everybody wants to come in on R&B. Everybody wants to come in on jazz in our genres. We have welcomed everybody into what we got going on. We respect your boundaries and we want others to respect ours. Hopefully we will start creating things like our own hospitals, restaurants, and theaters. Things I discuss in my revised book. Then I will feel comfortable about expanding my Christian business beyond America. That's how we're going to do our international trade. For example, people like Eminem came into our culture and then they get all the awards. How is Eminem a better rapper than all our rappers? When we get more on gatekeeping our culture and creation, that helps preserve things for the next generation. Black Americans were trying to promote Pan-Africanism and wanted to get citizenships. We couldn't find partners. This is why my focus is on connecting with African immigrants here in America to work with us by helping us get my revised book on that bestsellers list and donating to our film project so that the black world would know our story. In Pan-Africanism, the only people that's being recognized are celebrities, and celebrities don't bring anything to the table other than cameras. GRCAM is 100% black grassroots and global African family. We're not celebrities. We're ordinary law-abiding citizens. We will bring the best of the diaspora to help improve the African economy, social conditions on the continent, and create jobs for local Africans in exchange for dual citizenship. This is how my Christian business will help Black Americans who are GRCAM members, and how my Christian business will be beneficial to Africa, because we will meet the need. I'm only trying to unify with like-minded Black Americans and like-minded Africans who are GRCAM members. My Christian business will be membership-based. Once we get our film project fully funded and made and the proceeds of the film starts pouring in, then I can buy property in Chicago, purchase office equipment, and hire qualified Black middle-class professionals and African immigrants in America to make sure our Christian business will be effective and successful for years to come. We will encourage local residents to join us. We will hold weekly mandatory orientations. We will vet everyone who comes through our doors. Everyone must pass our criminal background check, sign the community pledge, and submit their thumbprints to be placed in our database. I will only be responsible for my members. Those who are not part of us, we will pray for them, show them tough love, and keep it moving. Most of the leaders in Africa are puppets or in the pockets of the white supremacist financial elites. They want to recolonize Africa. That's the real battle, not here, trying to get Black people to work with me. For after 32 years of being overlooked and rejected, I want to build something positive for Black youth and their families. People like Eric Prince, who is openly talking about recolonizing Africa again and Latin America. He wants to colonize you all again, and we're going to do a live stream about that soon. When Black Americans encourage you not to get too friendly with your former colonizers, many of you try to dismiss us, but we're only sharing that information with you so that you don't end up getting back into the same situation that you've been fighting to get out of. We're trying to raise funds for our film project on our revised GoFundMe page and on our revised PayPal page this year in 2024. Thanks for listening. We're now going to open up the phone lines, and you can ask me any questions. I'm going to use both of my smartphones, and also I'm going to try to use my laptop as well. But just do the best that you can to try to get on the show. Looking forward to hearing from you all out there. Phone lines are now open.